This is 15-year-old Trisha, and this is her baby brother, James. She's getting an awful lot of practice with this little guy, which is good because in 6 months, she's going to have a baby of her own. We're going to meet Trisha on today's show and find out how parents are dealing with their teenager's pregnancy. Families struggling over babies having babies. That's something worth talking about today on Rolonda. Or not, but it was pretty shocking as we were looking over this whole topic of babies having babies that almost every minute a teenage girl has a baby, which means that almost every minute a teenage boy becomes a father. And what does that do to a family? Well, for many, it is not an easy situation. I'd like you to meet Carla Moniz. She is 18 years old. She is also 7.5 months pregnant. She says that when she found out she was pregnant, not only did her parents throw her out, she says so did her boyfriend, who she says is the baby's father. This is 20-year-old John Hessian, and I'd like to welcome both of you to the show today. What exactly happened? Go back. How did, well, we know how this happens, but what was the response when you found out, when the doctor turned to you and said, you're going to have a baby? What was your first reaction?
I was scared at first. Then I was happy, and then I was scared. But I didn't tell my mom, because I knew she was going to kick me out. I was going to turn 17, and turn 18, I knew she would kick me out. So I just waited, but she went through my personal stuff and found out one of my pregnancy tests that was positive. And we argued and fought for a long time, and she just gave me that alternative that I had to leave and when I turned 18. And I did. 2 days later, I left.
And support from Mr. Hessian here?
No.
None? Why did you take the position that you have? Are you being supportive at all?
Well, I wasn't at first because I didn't believe she was pregnant. Because we were not living together when she found out she was pregnant. We had been separated for about 2 months when she found out she was pregnant. Okay, so I did not throw her out of my house because she was pregnant. She wasn't living there when she found out.
Okay. But you threw her out of your life?
Yeah, because she was telling me she was pregnant for 2 months before she even found out she was.
So what was going on there?
I missed my period, and I never do. And I knew I was pregnant. I knew it. And I kept telling him. And when I got tested, I was 3 months pregnant. Exactly 3 months.
What does this do to two young people who are teenagers, who are not married, who are in a situation where it's not really maybe the best, say, for a family to begin? What does this do to each of you? I want you to each just tell me what goes on in your life, in your heart, in this dilemma.
Well, I felt real bad about it in the beginning. My first thought was abortion, because the living situation I had just got laid off my job. We weren't together no more. She had just moved back into her parents' house, and I knew they'd throw her out when they found out. You know, so that was my first thought, and I broached the subject. I touched upon it with her, and she flipped out.
What did you talk about?
I just suggested it. I just brought the question, to her attention. And she didn't even want to think twice about it.
What about the amount of support that you as a father should be giving?
Like I said, at first I didn't believe her. And then when I found out for sure she was pregnant, she was already about 3 months pregnant. And the only way I knew, because I went to see her, and as soon as I saw her, I knew she was.
Does this, after you saw her, now you know she's pregnant, are you giving her more support? Are you going to have
I went to an appointment with her the next day.
You moved into the apartment?
No, I didn't move in with her. The very next day I went to a doctor's appointment with her.
Oh, you went to an appointment with her?
Yeah, and I hadn't been going at all. I hadn't even been acknowledging the fact that she was pregnant.
Okay, so you are going to stick with her through the pregnancy, through the birth of the baby, through the...
Well, it wasn't all that. I wanted her to have the abortion.
But she's clearly not going to do that.
Oh, I know that.
So
that
how
now.
much support are you planning to give her as she bears your child?
I've told her all along I'd give her what I could when I could.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I can't give her what I don't got, what I don't have myself.
Well, you gave her a baby,
Oh yeah, yeah, I know that.
you know.
But I mean, I can't give her, if I ain't got it, I can't give it to her. You know?
Carla, that's I pain for that kind of situation that you're in. You're so young. What do you go through day to day with all your family kicking you out the house, the boyfriend saying he can only give you what? I mean, that doesn't sound like an awful lot of support for a newborn into this world. What do you go through day to day because of this?
I have a lot of support at where I live. I live in a maternity home, and they really support me. It's called His Nesting Place, and they're always there for me. And I can't have an abortion because I'm pro-life. I never believed in it, never will. And my family supports me now to the point where I see them and they come and visit me and they buy baby things, but I don't think I would ever be able to move in with the baby.
Are you ready?
Am I ready? Yeah, I'm ready.
You gonna be a good mother?
Yeah, I'm gonna be an excellent mom
Why?
because I kept my baby and I didn't destroy it.
Unfortunately, that's still not enough.
No, I'm gonna be a good mom because I just know I am.
It's what she wants.
It's what I want.
If you want something bad enough, you'll be good at it.
And you do have support from, even if you don't get it in your family, you found that you could get support outside, that there are agencies to help you, there are homes to help you. Is that enough support for a young girl who really doesn't have her family behind her?
Yeah, they really support me 100%. I have job training. They train me. I'm training to be a receptionist. They're helping me to finish schooling, and they put up grants for me where they're helping me to buy a car. It's just amazing the things that they do for me.
What about school?
I'm trying to finish schooling.
One of the things I think a lot of people fear is that once you have the baby, you're going to say, forget it with school, and that's going to be one tragedy after another if you don't get that education.
Where I live, they push you to finish school.
Good.
They really push you hard to finish school.
Okay. What do you have a name picked out?
Yeah.
What?
It's a boy. His name's Anthony.
And where do you get that name?
I just like the name Anthony.
You just like the name Anthony. And how will you explain to Anthony about how his whole life existence came to? I mean, how will you explain to
I'll
him?
be honest. I'll tell him the truth. I'm never going to lie to my child.
Are you happy?
Yeah, I am.
You are? Did it take a while to get there?
It did. It took a while.
Why? What were some of the things you really had to get over?
So negative, you know. It was so much pressure from everybody that I was pregnant, and I thought of the fact of having an abortion, but I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't.
How are you happy, John?
Not particularly. You know, I already have one child.
You have one child
yes,
already.
from a different woman.
Oh, the plot is thickening here. Now, you know, there's some people who'll say, John, I don't blame you. I mean, this is a tough situation. But then there's another side that says, but he's got a baby he's got to care for.
Well, see, that was that situation too. I had just turned. I wasn't even 18 years old yet when she got pregnant, and she was talking about having an abortion. I didn't want her to.
Hold on a second. We've got to take a break. But when we come back, I want you to explain, as a young man who has been through this situation before, maybe some things that even Carla doesn't know that she's going to have to deal with. You've been there before. What do you fear about going through again? We're going to talk about that. And also coming up next, you're going to meet Tricia. She's a 15-year-old who is also pregnant. And while she says some family members are trying to encourage her to get an abortion, we're going to find out why this little girl has chosen to keep her baby right after this. If you're just joining us, we're talking today basically about babies having babies, teenage pregnancies, and what that does to families, and as well as each one of those teenage parents as well. We were speaking before we left to Carla and John, who are expecting a baby in about how many months now, Carla?
2.
2 more months. Do you have a due date yet?
June 2nd.
June 2nd. John is expressing that he is there, but he's not really happy about all of this. And John, you say you know why you're not happy, because you've been through it before. This is your second child. What were some things that you went through having that first child when you were 18 that you really want Carla to be prepared for? Because it's not going to be all easy. And you want her to remember what? Things like what?
Well, basically, during the first, for my first child, I wanted the baby. You know, I was not ready for it. I just didn't. I didn't agree with abortion. You know, and she wanted to have that. But then I got myself into a little trouble when she was like 3 months pregnant, and I went to jail. And I was in jail for the last 6 months of her pregnancy and the first 6 months of my son's life.
Mm-hmm. How are you a part of his life now? Or are you a part of his life?
Yes, I am. I'm very active in his life.
Are you a good father?
As good as I can be.
What makes a good father, John?
Caring, understanding, love.
Mm-hmm. Are you there for him a lot?
Oh, maybe not as much as I should be.
Uh-huh.
You know, I could be there more often than I am.
Mm-hmm. We had some questions from the audience that Rosa.
I just wanted to know, did you all consider birth control at all? I mean, being that you're experienced already, you have one child, did you even think of asking her, was she taking anything?
Oh, in the beginning, she told me she was taking the pill, and then she stopped and didn't tell me that.
Mm-hmm. I think your question's a good one, because you can't help with all the sex education we give to you kids. I mean, Carla, why?
That's a lie. He's lying. He knew I wasn't.
That was her first pregnancy.
No.
That was her first pregnancy.
Okay,
She
well
was
then
pregnant with a baby for me once before, and she miscarried.
And no birth control there either. I mean, what did you
That was
want?
a planned pregnancy. He wanted that baby.
We talked about it after she was pregnant.
And this was with you.
But now that I'm pregnant now, it's not okay. But the first one was okay.
It's different. That's because of the situation, the financial status, the living status, the relationship status. There's no relationship.
So was this a planned pregnancy? I mean, because that is true. Why?
One,
I mean,
no,
was it an
wasn't.
accident?
This one, yes, it was.
It was an accident.
It was an accident. Okay, so why didn't you use birth control that night? Thank you.
Thank you.
Why didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Because I trusted him, I guess. I trusted everything he said.
Okay. All right. According to Planned Parenthood, only a third of sexually active teenagers use birth control on a regular basis. Only a third of the sexually active teenagers. So what that means is that the majority of teenagers who have sex are also running an awfully high risk of also having babies, like Tricia. She is like most 15-year-olds we know. She spends a lot of time putting on makeup, brushing her hair. You know, your average teenage primping. She still has time to hang out with her friends. But that's soon going to change an awful lot for this young lady, because this October, when 15-year-old Tricia becomes a mommy, life will never be the same. Welcome Tricia Banning and her own mother, Diane Lewis. Thank you both ladies for joining us. Tricia, what do you think about all of this? Are you excited about having a baby, or has this been a very difficult time for you?
Yeah, pretty much, because like it wasn't planned or nothing, and I was like, just didn't know.
Mm-hmm. How did you find out? Tell us about the day that you found out.
Well, I got sick on my birthday after Disneyland, and we thought it was food poisoning, so we went to the doctors, and my mom said, well, do you think you could be pregnant? And I'm all, I don't know, maybe. She's all, okay, well, and she told the doctor to get the test, and I did, and it came out positive, and then the doctor came in and told us, and me and my mom just started crying, and the doctor like talked to me alone, and then she just asked me questions if I was going to keep it, and I told her I wasn't sure, and at first I wasn't going to keep it, but then like my grandma showed me a video of like the miracle of birth or something, and like it just made me change my mind.
Mm-hmm. They say that 40% of all teenage pregnancies nowadays end in abortion. That isn't a choice that you wanted to make. What did you go through when that doctor came back and said, your test is positive? What was the first feeling that you had?
I was scared. I was like, oh my God, what is my mom gonna say? You know, I didn't know if she'd be like, well, who's father, blah, this and that, and I was like scared. I didn't know what to do.
How did she react?
Well, she told me she'd be there for me whenever she needed me or I needed her, and just that she'll love the baby and she'll still love me, and
She'll help you through it.
Yeah.
You're going to need your mama big time. Diane, I understand that you have always had a very open relationship with Tricia, that you have actually talked about birth control, you have helped her take the pill at one time, or is that...
I tried to tell her that if she was active to let me know and I would get her directed in that path.
So when that doctor came back and told you about that positive test, what was the first thing that went through your mind as a mother?
Well, I was shocked that I felt betrayed because she couldn't come to me. I thought for sure she would.
You did, because I think a lot of us think, God, if I told my mother, she would kill me. You know, a lot of us are just afraid that, oh my God, and quite honestly, that kept a lot of us teens my age out of trouble. And I just wonder, and how did you I mean, you were loving even after that? I mean, never wanted to suggest abortion, never, not that I'm pushing for abortion, but I'm thinking instead of abortion, what do you suggest? You say keep the baby, or?
I suggest she take responsibility for her actions, and we're there to support her emotionally. We're not going to kick her out. I know this girl, unfortunately, was dealt with that way, but like I told her, we can love the baby and we love her, and we'll work it out somehow.
Now, also here, introduce yourself.
Hi. I'm Trisha's cousin, Diane's niece.
And you are upset about this whole issue that's affecting your family.
Yeah. I think she's too young to have a baby.
Has this been something that's really split up the family?
No, I mean, I go to school in Boston, so I'm like a whole world away. But when I heard, I was totally devastated. I felt so bad because at Christmas time I wanted to take Trisha like to the side, and I wanted to say, you know, if you need anything. But you know, she was 14. I don't want to like push sex on her either, you know. But now I feel like, God, if I would have said that, maybe this wouldn't have happened. So I don't know, but I totally think that she's still a kid, and at 21 I forget to pay my phone bill. You know, I can't see how at 15 she can raise a baby.
Somebody back here said that's true. What are you guys thinking? I mean, share what you're thinking too, because I'm just trying to get to the thought process. I mean, a lot of us feel the same way. Come on over here, hon. A lot of us feel the same way that we're concerned that such a young child, but that you've got your mother beside you, and so this is kind of a different twist on things. Yes.
I just want to say I'm 23 years old and I'm still not ready. I just want to ask the young ladies, do you feel you let yourself down? Because you knew that before you got pregnant, you were taking a chance. How do you feel about yourself?
Well, I thought people would like think low of me, and like some people do, but well, you know, what I did was wrong, but I have to take the consequences.
You know, a lot of people say it's because of low self-esteem. Do you think, Diane, that had anything to play on your daughter?
No, I think that the father of the baby, you know, he was older, and he told her what he thought she wanted to hear, and you know, it just one thing led to another, and they're vulnerable at that age, and you know, they want to believe that they're loved by this boy that they like.
Okay, Tricia, you never have a feeling that you've ruined your life or anything like that, or do you?
I wouldn't say I ruined my life, but I put it on hold for a while. You know.
No, for at least 18 years. At least 18 years. We're going to continue with this conversation. We're going to get to your question. And up next, we're also going to meet two more babies having babies, and we're going to hear what a father has to say about his two little girls who are now mommies right after this. I was just talking to Christine Gladys here. You are go and tell everybody who you are and what we were talking about during the break.
Okay, well, my name's Christine. I'm like a second mother to Tricia, and she's over at my house a lot. This is very emotional for me. Yeah. And also I'm very nervous. I had a baby, my daughter right here at 16, and it was very, very difficult.
Oh, sweetie. This is obviously...
Well, I'm nervous too, but I don't want her to go through what I went through. It was very, very hard. Even though I had my mom, you know, I lived with her and everything, but it was very difficult, and I still sometimes feel trapped because, you know, there's a lot of things, I mean, and she knows how I feel. She knows that I love her, and I don't resent having her.
Let's meet you two. This is emotional for both of you. Oh, sweet. Oh, sweet. Tell me where do those tears come from?
We're going through a lot at home too, but it compiles it because we're all, you know, pretty close, and it just, you know, it hits home. And I work in a hospital and I see it every day, and I know we've talked about it, and it's upsetting. I mean, I was brought up Jehovah's Witness. Abortions were wrong, and that's why I had Bree. But looking back, if it was my child, this hits really close. You know, I wouldn't want her to go through what I went through. I wouldn't want her to be in that position, and I wouldn't want her to look back and say, "Gosh, you know, I could have done something with my life." Because I say that a lot.
I know you sat with Trish probably and told her things, and you sat with your daughter and said, "This is the way life is going to change for you." How does it really change?
Well, I had my head in the clouds for like. And I think it ended when she was about 3 months old, and it's finally set in, and I couldn't go to parties. I was, you know, almost 17. Couldn't go to parties, couldn't go out when I wanted to. I had to put my diploma on hold, and didn't get to graduate with my class or anything, and it was very difficult. And as she got older, you know, it was very hard to find a job, and couldn't go to school still, you know, babysitters, I mean, the whole thing. But mainly I felt trapped for a long time, but I would never give up my baby for nothing, because once I had her, it was like, you know, but I don't want to see Tricia have this baby, because I know that she's going to love it. I know she's going to be a good mother, but I also know that she's a teenager, and I just can't help feeling that she's going to feel those feelings that I felt when I was that age, and it's just very difficult. And I pray to God that, you know, it's not ever going to happen here until we're ready, right?
Yeah. Boy, this is tough. You know, because, boy, Trish, you're going to have to grow up quick.
Yeah.
You know? Are you prepared for that, really? Have you ever thought of adoption, like putting the baby up for adoption? Is that ever a thing to think of either? Does it make you, thank you, you guys can sit down, I thank you for sharing that with us. But you know, Tricia, does it ever just make you doggone mad that everybody's trying to tell you what to do with your life?
Yes, it does.
Well, tell me about that too, because I can imagine that's an awful lot of pressure on somebody who's already under a lot of pressure. What is that, why does it make you angry? What about our comments, maybe even here today, might really get you angry?
Well, I don't know. It's just you guys have your opinion and I have mine. And
that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I know that you all are teenagers, and it's hard to tell teenagers anything. They're going to do what they want to do. But you couldn't even remember to use birth control. How are you going to remember to change a diaper, or to remember feeding, or, you know, to pick the kid up from daycare or whatever?
Carla, you don't like that statement,
I
do
think
you?
that's ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. I know teenagers who have been
I'm not going to forget to change my kid's diaper. I'm not going to forget to feed my kid. I'm not going to let my kid run wild.
I mean, birth control is an important part of our lives.
It is important, and I don't even believe that I should have even been having sex, period, before marriage. And I made that mistake, okay? And it happened once, and I was ignorant to think, oh, it's just one time. It did happen twice. But we were living together at one time, and we planned it, we were engaged and everything. And I believed everything he told me. I believed he loved me. I believed all that stuff. Okay?
Question.
I really just have to say to the gentleman here in blue, first of all, I can't call you a gentleman, because if you think that there's an issue of whether you can help her or you can't help her, there's no issue in that. You have to help her. You help to make the baby. You have to help to raise the baby. You have to help to support the baby.
If I don't have it, I can't give it to her. If it's not there to take, it can't be taken.
Well, you have to try harder. You have to try. You help to make a baby.
Yeah, you want to do what you can.
Okay. You know? Thank you. Thank you. Come on.
You want to do your best.
John? Huh? John is here. Do you have a question?
It's called a double job. It's called a second job, you know. If you can make a kid, you can support it. Straight up. I had 3 kids when I was in high school. I had to work 2 jobs till I was 25.
3 kids?
Vitamin E. I had to work 2 jobs till I was 25, and you really got to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
what would you, I mean, but you've been there.
Yeah.
And you know it's a new day. It's a tougher day probably than when you were in high school. What would you advise for young fathers? Because we're always looking at the young girl most of the time, but you know, it takes 2 to make a baby.
Yeah,
and what would you...
I don't know, I think the guy's like more responsible. The guy should wear the condom. The guy should more, you know, maybe it's like a male-female thing, but I think the guy should really be more responsible to it, yeah.
Yeah, from start to finish. We'll be right back and continue this conversation about what a teenage pregnancy does to a family and does to even extended family. Everybody seems to be affected when a teenager has some tough decisions to make. We'll be back with this conversation after this. Research on this show, we found out that it was like the mid-'80s that some phenomena happened, that all of a sudden a phenomenal rise happened in the number of teenage girls having babies. In fact, today, 1 in every 16 girls teenage age has a baby. You wanted to make a comment.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. My name is Mary, and I am 7.5 months pregnant. I'm 19 years old, and I just wanted to stress the point of alternatives, because there are alternatives. I'm having an adoption. I'm putting my baby up for adoption, and it's very, very, very hard. But I also believe in the homes, the maternity homes. I belong to a beautiful maternity home. There are also maternity homes for minors, and I just want to stress the point of alternatives, that even though they are hard, sometimes they're needed. It's just the abortion. It's just.
That's just not your choice, right? But let me ask you this. That must have been a hard choice to make for you.
Very hard.
What did you go through before you came to that decision?
I went through whether I wanted to give my child life and to let it see life, whether I was there or not. Just the fact of letting it see life was the most important thing to me, more than anything. It's just life.
How are you going to be, now here's the other end, because it's just not that simple once you make a decision. When you go into labor and you have your baby, and are you going to be able to, are you prepared to deal with the emotional strain that's going to put on you?
Well, I am getting counseling right now. I do know it's going to be very, very hard. I'm not tricking myself. I do know, but I feel like just giving this baby life means more to me than my emotional pain or my emotional hardness. It just means
so what would you say to those ladies up there? Yeah, because you're doing some mature thinking, awfully mature thinking. When you listen to these young ladies, what do you say to Tricia and Carla?
I just say that there's alternatives out there. There's places where you can go. There's people that will help you get through this. There are people that will put you up, do everything for you. Like Carla was talking about, she lives in a home, so do I. I live in a home, and it just has helped me tremendously. I go to school, I work. I'm just really, and there are a lot of them, even in New York.
I bet you do a lot of bonding in those situations with other girls who are in that situation too, right? What have you learned most about yourself through this? Any of you young ladies, Tricia, Carla, Mary, any? What have you learned?
I've learned that just that the value of life is so important to me, and that even though I give my baby life and give it to another family, or someone else gets to raise it, maybe so far away I never know, but to experience life, to experience what I experience, is just overwhelming. It's just so beautiful.
Okay, all right, thank you guys. As we talk about teen pregnancies, babies having babies, how a family is affected by what is oftentimes shocking news, we come to Eddie Kennedy here, who I don't think you're dealing with this too well, are you, Dad? Come on, Eddie, stand up for me. He is the father of 2 young girls, 14-year-old Ivana. Come on, stand up, girls. She has a 3-month-old baby, and 16-year-old Tanisha here, who not only has a 9-month-old baby, she is pregnant once again. Dad, what do you say? 2 beautiful girls come home in this situation. How does a father deal with this?
Well, it's a very disappointing situation to deal with, seeing them entrapped this way, so young. It was really hard on me finding out about Ivana. By the time I found out about Tanisha, she was already, pretty well on her way to being pregnant. Now, the girls aren't living with me, and they were living with their mom at the time.
What was your first reaction when you got the news?
I was just devastated. It was really hard for me to accept the fact that they were pregnant, because I felt like I informed them the best I could. When I was growing up as a child, my parents, and it was kind of like taboo for them to even discuss sex, but I believe in being open with the kids, and letting them know what their options are, and letting them know what the consequences are if they don't protect themselves, because I believe in abstinence, but the thing is, we realize that it's always a strong possibility that kids will be sexually active. So you let them, you give them the information, and
you think that's enough. You think that's enough if you tell them. I want to talk to you young ladies about why that wasn't enough. What was it that made both of you decide to go on with having the baby and getting pregnant, not using protection, all those things? Can you hold on and answer that when we come back? Well, we are also going to meet a psychologist during this show who actually works with teenagers and says that decisions about a teenage pregnancy should never be made impulsively. We're going to continue this discussion right after this. Talking to some young people here, Ivana and Taisha, who are both mothers, 14 to 16 years old. What made you guys decide at such an early age that you would go through with the pregnancy and keep the children?
Well, a lot of it had to do with self-esteem. Actually, I wanted something that was mine, and something that I could love, and something that would love me back. But then in the long run, I kind of thought, well, the baby can't love me the way that I wanted the baby to love, and you kind of find that out, and it's hard. It's real hard, and it's not like I thought it was going to be. I sit in the house, I don't go anywhere, I can't, it's real hard. It's not exactly a fairy tale.
14 years old, you're supposed to be playing with baby dolls. Did you think really in your heart of hearts that this was going to be fun? I mean, did you relate that to like a baby doll? Is that what you...
No.
What was this about getting love, the unconditional love? Is that what you wanted?
Pretty much, yeah. But a baby can love you, but the kind of love that they have is more like attachment. And the love I was looking for, the baby can't give to me.
Are you a good mother? Because I'm going to tell you, there's some people who worry about a little baby in your care.
I think so.
I
really do.
Because if you can't handle it and the baby ends up in a social service, it becomes our baby. And I think that's a lot of the concern.
I don't think that's going to happen, because that's my baby.
You're going to take good care of the baby.
Yeah.
Now, what about you? You're pregnant for the second time. And you're 16 years old with 2 children, one on the way here.
Yeah.
How do you, when people go, oh my God, how can you, what is your response? How do you defend all of this?
I don't defend it all, but with my first son, Michael, I wanted him. That's my heart, and that's my heart. I never regret having him, but it wasn't all that I thought it was going to be. It was never. But
so why would you have another?
this is really crazy. I mean, this is a first time thing. Actually, I believe from what she said, abstinence, that's why I didn't use birth control. I had strongly made a decision that I wasn't going to be sexually active with anybody until marriage, and, you know, because I was just tired of, you know, going through the games and stuff that they play with you. And I got involved with this guy, and we had a real nice relationship up until the time that we had sex for the first time, and it's only been once.
It only takes
once. It
once.
only takes once.
And now where's that young man?
He's at home somewhere. And I mean, a week before I found out I was pregnant, we fell out big time. I mean, big time, more than you can know, and that I care to discuss. But we fell out big time. So hopefully
What?
I
can't believe.
Go on, Janine.
These
What?
people are having babies. I can't deal. It's like, what are you thinking? You know?
Yeah.
I've seen backstage. Mary showed me some pictures of some really disgusting pictures of abortion and like whatever.
The truth.
And I would still get an abortion because I'm 21. I'm in college. I'm gonna make something fantastic of my life, and I can't see how anybody at this age, 14, 15, 16, 18, 21, is ready to make that kind of commitment. And people like this guy who convinces you guys, you girls, to do that. I mean, we have to wake up, women, and take responsibility. I can understand if Trisha was like totally in love with this guy, and it was like a Romeo and Juliet, and they had to be together, and she had to have the baby, but I mean, she doesn't.
Okay,
really
well, here's a
love
comment
it.
from here. Go on, sweetie. Go on, Maria.
How can you say that? Don't you know that life begins at conception? No.
Question here from the audience.
I'd really like to commend the young lady over there who decided to give her child up for adoption. Because let me tell you something, that is a smart, intelligent, and caring thing to do.
Amen.
These people up here who are sitting here saying, oh, well, I never used birth control, but don't worry, I'll remember to change my child's diaper. You're going to be an irresponsible parent.
No, I'm not.
And if I were going to be your child, I would have rather wished you had an abortion.
No, I don't think so. I'm not going to be an irresponsible parent. Okay?
I'd like to say something too.
Okay. What did you have to say? Go on.
I was going to say that it's not just the girl's responsibility to
deal
do
with
anything about protecting themselves with birth control. Don't just place it on the women to do. The guy should also do his part too.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you. And what do you say?
I agree with Jenny. I'm 5.5 months pregnant, and I'm 17. I wish I had an abortion. That would be a dream if I could get an abortion.
5 months is...
No, not now. Not now. When I found out. Now it's like I'm accepting the fact that I do have a baby inside of me, a human life.
So what are you going to do?
What am I going to do? Well, my mother's supporting me. I'm in school. I have things that are supporting me. Adoption is in my mind, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Let me tell you something about abortion that pretty much surprised us. Do you know, where do you live?
Rhode Island.
In Rhode Island. Well, in New York and California, abortions can be performed up to 24 weeks, which is 5 months and 6 months almost. Yeah. So, but that's something you're definitely not thinking about at this point, are you? An abortion.
An abortion? Well, no, not at 5 months. I can't. It's kicking. It's
What do you think? What do you think when the baby starts kicking? That's quite an awful lot for a 17-year-old to feel, I think. But
it just started kicking about 2 weeks ago when I was at the doctor's office.
And what went through your feelings?
I realized I had a baby inside of me. I didn't realize it. I didn't think I was pregnant. Nothing was changing. I don't look like I'm gaining weight, do I?
No, that's one of the benefits of being 17.
So it's like, I didn't feel that I was pregnant until it kicked, and it was like, oh my God, wow.
Woke you up, didn't it?
Yeah, wow.
Let me ask you this:
to be a mother in 4 months.
How are all of you young ladies going to deal with the fact that a lot of little boys or young boys may not want to go out with you anymore because you got a baby at home? Yes, not true either. What?
Every time I meet a male, the first question, they don't even ask me my name. The first question is, how many kids do you have?
At 17, they're asking you this?
Yep. They don't even ask the name. They just say, how many kids do you have?
Okay, and when you tell them that you have one on the way,
Right.
the reaction?
Well, some of them say, well, that doesn't matter, and then, you know, you can tell who kind of person they are, and then some of them say, you know, well, maybe we can be friends.
Okay, we're going to come back, and I'm going to introduce you to our psychologist. Thank you so much, young lady. A psychologist who can give us a better insight on some of the other things that we all need to be aware of, because you never know when your teenager may come home and say, I'm about to become a parent. We'll be right back. Guardare. He is a clinical psychologist. The doctor specializes in counseling adolescents and teens regarding pregnancy issues. He says that all family members should be included in a decision that pertains to a pregnant teen. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, of all the teenagers you're working with, what seems to be the common reason that the pregnancy happens to begin with, other than the lack of birth control?
Well, I think one of the things that you look at and why we need the family to get involved is that decisions are often made as a form of acting out behavior. We find that someone gets pregnant, they have a baby, you think it's not going to happen again. What happens? Bam, another baby. So a lot of these things happen from dysfunctional families. So we have to get to the root of the behavior, the root of the problems, the communication problems in the family, oftentimes through counseling. And there are a lot of places that they can go where counseling costs nothing, where the family can be counseled to look at what's happening with that particular youngster and why these babies are coming.
But how do you know that beforehand? I mean, I'm sure there's some folks out there watching this show, or some people in this audience who have teenagers who can't wait to get home and tie them down or something, you know, that are very concerned about what can I possibly do as a parent to avoid a situation like this happening when there's really not much I can do.
I think one of the things that you often find, Rolonda, is that the child stops communicating. The young lady or the young man even who's responsible in some way for this, they stop communicating with you as the parent. The friendship is not there perhaps as much as it used to be. Perhaps there's some problems in school, staying out late or what have you. And these are some of the things that indicate, hey, something's going on. We need to look at what's happening with our child.
How do you talk to children? I mean, because I remember my mother, I mean, it was not even discussed. It was just, don't even think about it, you know, and it was just, you know, did you go through that too? I see all these hands. I mean, maybe it was another generation, but it was just never even considered. So when we say in the mid-'80s there was a phenomenal rise in teenage pregnancies, what's happening? Well, how did that?
Well, I think we have to look at the fact that the kids we have today, 90s, in the 80s, are not the same kids that we were. Discipline, those things were there much more. Now, I think one of the things we've stopped doing is that we don't talk to our kids. And that's what happens. Then the pregnancies happen, and then we're forced to talk to our kids when it's too late.
Yes, go on.
That's not true. I know all too well. I was 15 when I had her. I told her what I went through and that things would have to be put off. I wouldn't trade her for any other kid, but I would have did it later in my life. It was devastating, yeah, to see. And I disagree with Brianne's mom, Christine.
Well, but no one can take away anything that you're saying, that you did a fine job. Many of the things that are being said today are said in general what usually happens. Of course, there are individual cases that are different, and you've done a fine job and you've done what you've had to do. But often there aren't that many people who have the know-how that you have, the communication that you have to do what you've done. So we can't think that everyone is just like you.
I'm here to tell my story, what happened with us, and that I want to say to anybody out there who's pregnant, there's hope. You're not stuck the rest of your life. If you look at it that way, you're going to be stuck. You can look at it and have a good attitude, or you can have a bad attitude. She chooses to say, okay, we're working together. My mom's supporting me. We're not getting on welfare. She's going to finish her education. Fortunately, we can. Our insurance covers it. It doesn't all have to be bad, people. You don't have to make it so
No, you're right. It
so
doesn't have to be
bad.
bad, but that's why I think it's very important, as you've done with your family, to have the family pitch in. Certainly when one gets pregnant, that person's life isn't over. That's just phase 2. Then you have to work with mother, and you have to work with the child, that the child doesn't end up getting back into that same cycle.
And even when you discuss at my brother's 5 years old, he's like, you know, 6, and he knows about, you know, penises and stuff like that. And it doesn't matter. Even if you're 10 and your mother says, you know, Jenny, if you want birth control, there's no way you can go to your mom and say that.
What happens is, we were
There's no way.
teenagers, okay? You think it can't happen to me.
Hold on a second. We've got to take a break right now, but we want to continue this conversation. We'll be right back. Talking with a mother who you said that you had a Trish at 15. 50% of the teenage mothers, they say, come from a mother who was a teenage mother. So we're talking about intergenerational things also. You had a comment.
Yes, I wish that adoption was encouraged as much as abortion. I was very, very touched by this young woman over here. I believe that basically we're all connected, and that adoption, you're going to be giving life, and you're going to also be giving life to a family. And there are so many people that want babies.
That's right.
And open adoption is really supported nowadays.
That's right. Thank you. Because I like what you said, too, that we are all connected. That if, you know, it is, there's an African saying that says it takes a whole village to raise a child. And Lord knows that is the case these days. Let me also say, during the break, thank you so much. Some other people were saying, and I really appreciate this comment, that it doesn't necessarily mean that your life is over, that life is going to be horrible because you're having a child. This is a decision that is difficult to make. Goodness knows we don't want everyone to make that decision because they're not ready. But you will work hard. You will be good mothers, I hope. And I wanted to at least say something positive on that note, that is not always doomed. Yes.
I wanted to ask about the supportive factor from the parents. My mother would say to me when I was in high school, just don't make me a grandmother too soon. And I thought about her more so than me, because I felt like she sacrificed a lot, you know, to raise me as a single parent, and I couldn't do that to her. I couldn't have her raise my child. I know that's what would have happened, even though she said, okay, this is your child, but she would have been up at night and feeding, and that's not her child, that's my child.
That's right. Eddie, what kind of pressure does that put on you?
Thank you. It really didn't put that much pressure on me because they have a support system, the place that they're living. They watch the kids most of the time. So I watch the kids every now and then, my wife and I, when the opportunity arises.
Comment.
No, I'd like to ask, when and how do you plan to get your life back on and do the things that I'm sure you want to do?
I'm doing everything that I want to do now. This baby does not stop my life. And it's not going to, my life's going to continue. It's just going to continue with Precious' life that's going to be with me.
Well, you got
I want to go back to this lady right here.
Okay, make it quick because we got to take a quick break.
I respect your opinion. You have the right to your opinion, but you don't know who I am. You don't know what kind of person I am. I admit it. I made the mistake. I should have used birth control. I should have never listened to him. I should have never listened to society, period. I should have waited until I got married to have sex. But I made that mistake. I made the mistake. But I'm not going to take my life, this precious life, and turn it and make it into a mistake.
And we'll be right back after this. Guardare, please share with us overall, this can't be all gloom and doom. What would you say to these young ladies?
Well, to everyone, whatever decisions you've made, You live with your decisions. It has to be a positive thing, not a time for recrimination and negativity. You go on with your lives, and you do the best that you can in raising your child.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. And there is support out there. I want to thank all of you for being here and sharing your stories with us. Please be good parents. Please seek support if you need it. And consider adoption if you're already caring. Good luck to you also, young lady. And thank you. See you next time.